I'm tired and I have a terrible sleep schedule. And the sad thing is, I know exactly the reason why. Welcome to Parking Lot Philosophy, the only show where a gap in uploads is because I don't commute on the weekends. I have always struggled with my sleep schedule ever since college. It's gotten really bad over the past few years. I used to always be one of those kids. I think I would go to sleep at least at 10, if not before that. Like definitely by 9, I'm winding down in high school and before that. I think a big part of that is I was very regimented in my schedule. I had to get up early to get to school on time. And then, I'd be tired by the end of the day. I also had a lot better exercise and diet. Fuck, I am so tired today. My car is like slightly warm too, so it makes me sleepier. Yeah, I would always have like a decent sleep schedule. Weekends, it usually wasn't too bad. I did debate and forensics in high school. And so, especially before a debate tournament on Friday, I'm not going to stay up late. And then on Saturday, I'm tired because I had a tournament. And so, pretty rarely did I have like a bad sleep schedule. Definitely over the summer, but that's not as long of a period. But it's one of those things where I know what's wrong. I know I stay up too late. I sleep too little. I don't eat healthily. Healthily? I don't eat healthy enough. It's one of those things I understand the reason behind it. And I also understand it's bad. I read the book Why We Sleep. I've heard after reading that book that the researcher behind it might not be exactly the most credible. I guess there's like some things that technically aren't truly backed, but I think generally the information is stuff we all understand. We train during our sleep. That was one thing that I think is really neat from the book. That's one of the things, if you think about something before you go to sleep, you're going to likely think about it and kind of process it while you're sleeping. I also think, too, sleep is really tied to your health. So if you sleep good, you're going to be healthier. One of those things where I think it's really important to sleep, and I know it's important, and then I don't, which is exactly why I'm tired right now. The last few days, I have not been doing a good job. It's at least 11, if not midnight, by the time I'm going to sleep, and then I have to wake up at 6:30, 6 to 7, some would say. This dates this episode so poorly. But anyway, point being, I know what's wrong. I know I'm not sleeping enough. And I still continue to oftentimes decide to not go to sleep. Sometimes it's by pure accident. I'll be watching like a show or YouTube or playing video games, or just time gets away from me and I'll be staying up late. Sometimes too, I'm procrastinating, and so I procrastinate like something like doing the dishes until 9:30, and then it's like, fuck, I gotta do the dishes. And so then it's, 10 by the time I'm even getting done with the dishes and then brushing my teeth and then doing all that stuff. So it's one of those things where I know it's a problem, but things kind of get in the way. But even worse than that, I think the real root cause, and I think a lot of people do this, I don't feel satisfied with my day. And so I'll harvest, or I'll steal my next day from me by staying up later. So I'll recognize like, oh, I didn't do that much today, or I wasn't as productive, or I didn't get this, that, and the other done. So I am going to take a sleep debt and do more today. But then the problem is, especially like with weekends, half the time then it's like, okay, I took that debt. When am I going to pay off that debt? When am I going to sleep in? Well, then I'll sleep in on the weekends. Well, then all of a sudden on the weekend when it's supposed to be, relax, whatever, I will then be like, well, fuck, I slept in till 10. I have, if I stay up for the next 10 hours, if I stay up for the next 12 hours, that's 10 p.m. There's really not much day there. And so then it's like, well, got to go into sleep debt again. And so I'm in this constant cycle of debt, very much in the same way that, people with credit cards are. You keep paying into the debt. you only pay back the minimum, you're going to spiral more into debt. That's where I am with sleeping. I am in that sleep debt spiral, constantly stealing from my future. And that's one of those things, I know it's bad. I know I need to get better at not doing that, but it's just one of those things. It feels so hard to break out of that cycle. And again, that's why I'm tired. Is I am tired because I don't sleep enough. And I am not sleeping enough because I don't feel like I do enough in my day. And I don't do enough in my day because I'm always tired. And I'm always tired because I don't sleep enough. And I don't sleep enough because I don't feel like I do enough in my day. And so on and so forth. And you get the point. I'm tired because I can't fathom the idea of it's okay to just let the day end. Like, I don't want the day to end. I think there's a lot of kind of, maybe not trauma. Maybe that's a bit dramatic. But I think especially for me, and I think if you're around my age, you definitely get it, where you feel like every day has to have a lot of value. I mean, you watch vlogs when you're a kid. You at least see stuff on social media about how cool some people's lives are, or even in video games, like, you know, a lot of YouTube content around video games is like very, you know, extreme for what people are doing in the video games, especially now. You don't see Let's Plays as often or things like that. So it's about how much can I maximize out of the time I'm getting. Very much a grind set thing as well. And it's like the reality is not always are you going to be 100% efficiency. Not always are you going to have the most productive day. And that's fine. Not every day needs to be like that. Partially because, you know, if you live to be, let's say 50, you know, which I don't think is like an insane age. I'm 24. I'm not even halfway through my lifespan yet. So I've got 300 times 25 days left. Math is hard, but I know that would be at least 6,000 days. Am I stupid? Right? Yeah. There's a while in there. There's a long amount of time in there. Yeah, 6,000. 7,000. Sorry. Had a flashback to the terrible joke I made earlier. Yeah, that's the thing. You have so many days left. And that's a very, very bad estimate of like, hey, you're not even going to live to 50. But that's one of the things. Like, you have a lot of time. It's okay to have some off days. And I think part of it, by having off days, you actually allow yourself to have days that aren't off, days that are on. But by constantly trying to be like, okay, I don't want to go to sleep yet because I haven't had as productive of a day as I feel I should, then I'm stealing all those future days because I'm constantly behind. Whereas if I just rested, if I just went to sleep, if I just was okay with a non-productive day, I think it'd be really valuable. And that's kind of one of the things I've been trying to think through and not just think on, but also process and work on, because it's great to think about things. It's great to be reflective, but you also have to act on those reflections and on those things you recognize. And it's not always easy. I mean, it's hard to want to go to sleep sometimes because I'm wired in a way where it's not wired as in like brain hardwired, but I'm wired because, you know, I'm playing video games or I'm up on screens or I had coffee way late. Normally I don't feel like coffee affects me, but I bet it does, you know, without me kind of recognizing. So it's all of these things where it's their little habits. They build and build and build. And for the last 6 years, because of college, because of everything else, because I've never been my own adult before, I have let myself and my sleep schedule get terrible. Whereas when I was a kid, if I was staying up late too often, you know, I had parents say, yeah, it's time to go to bed. And I would grumble, but I'd probably pass out like super quick. So that's one of the things. I want to sleep more. I want to get better sleep. I think you should too. If you're listening to this, definitely. If it's late, you should go to sleep. If it's early, you should prep to go to sleep. I think one of the things I'm really going to try and start doing more especially is winding down properly. So 9 o'clock rolls around. It's time to no screens, no nothing. Just wind down, get going to sleep, and kind of set myself up for success that way. But good night is what I'll say. I'll act as if you're watching this when it's really late. Anyway, bye for now.